All right, welcome back. Little stains on my shirt. All right, anyway, so we're going through the book of Galatians, and I chose the book of Galatians to kind of do a little Bible study because, it's one that's impacted my life greatly, and I think it resonates with a lot of Christians who you hear of Christ or you accept Christ and you believe in him, and then right on the heels of that is all the things that Christians should be doing, and I use that term loosely because this is what happens to these people that Paul is writing to. Is they hear the gospel, they hear the good news, and it's like, Jesus has forgiven us of all of our sin, past, present, future. All of it has been taken care of, and all we have to do is believe. And then someone comes along and tells them, it's great that you believe in Jesus, but now here are the things that you need to be doing. Now that you are a believer, you need to be doing this and whatever. And so Paul is addressing that. And we left off last time with asking the question, like, what other good news could there be? And, what other gospel is there? Because that's where he starts off and says, that I marvel that you are so soon removed from this gospel into another one. And so the difference in Paul's gospel and another gospel is Paul's gospel is about the grace of Christ, that he paid for it all, and we are to receive that. He takes care of everything, and we are just to receive it freely, something that we do not deserve, that we cannot earn. We are just to receive that. And the other gospel that quickly comes in is like mandates, regulations, requirements, laws. And that's what Paul is trying to get across to these people, is like, there are no laws, there are no regulations. You don't have to do anything to be a believer. And that even rubs people wrong today. It's whatever church denomination you may be involved in, there's sometimes written or unwritten rules that we have to follow. And the truth of the matter is that there are no requirements. And that doesn't sit well with us as humans. we don't like that. It's, a lot of times in Christianity we throw around the terminology of being guided by God's Spirit, and like it's such a loose like terminology that people don't like that, because you can't put any regulations on that, because you don't know how God is necessarily guiding me. Of course, he's not going to lead us to do things that are sinful or that are wrong or harmful to other people, but it's just wide open. But it is the life of a believer, is to just be guided by his Spirit. Taking a lot longer to even get into the scripture, but in chapter 2, Paul says, he talks about this guy named Titus that went with him on his journey back to Jerusalem when he was preaching the gospel. And he says that in verse 3, that Titus, who was a Greek, he wasn't a Jew, he was a Greek, says that he was not even compelled to be circumcised, which is just it's like just such a weird thing to even talk about. But that was circumcision was given to the Jews, and that was something that the Jewish religion, that was what was the thing that set them apart from everybody else. And Titus, who went along, he heard Paul, he became a believer. He wasn't a part of the Jewish laws and traditions and things, and he was not compelled to become like a Jew. And that's what Paul is addressing, is like, he's saying we don't have to keep all of these laws, all of these rituals, all of these traditions. And I think that's something that we definitely need to check within ourselves. Like, are we being governed and guided by a regulation or a rule, a law that someone has told us about, or something that we think God is requiring of us? Or are we living our lives just guided by His Spirit? And that is so much more of a day-to-day type relationship, and it takes time and humility and faith to sit and listen for your next steps. So we'll end it there, and we'll pick back up next time.